spiritual food for thought.
So for those of you who follow me on the daily, I may spend a couple days on this topic, a couple more days just talking about young earth versus old earth. This time though, I'm going to head to the Ten Commandments, and we're just going to kind of discuss how there's a pattern set forth and something that I believe is obvious if we really just look at it, and how really believing in an old earth would completely destroy this. And next time we'll actually do some things about the nature of God, I think, and his perspective, and how really believing in millions and billions of years of death and disease and suffering and thorns and thistles before the fall of man destroys a lot of things too. So I'm going to read to you briefly from the Ten Commandments. This is the 1/10 of the law that is, pretty much ignored across the board in modern Christianity. And because of that, I think a couple things happen. So people really, they know about not murdering, they know about not telling lies and stuff, but when we get to the Sabbath, and really what it says about the Sabbath, it's something, people may take brunch off between breakfast and lunch on Sunday morning, but actually thinking about this and meditating on this and considering these things, I think is something that rarely happens within the modern institutional, Sunday-going church, and just stating that as a fact. Therefore, when I appeal to this, it'll be kind of over a lot of people's heads to begin with, but it's right here for anyone who wants to check it out. So, this is Exodus chapter 20, starting at verse 8. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days thou shalt labor and do all thy work. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, nor thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. So here, just 1/10 of the law of the Ten Commandments that we're given here. It says, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days labor and do all your work. That's a pattern. And it's a pattern that he set forth for us. So if we back up to Genesis and we see that he made everything that he made, okay, is that actually what he says? Right? Who cares what I think? Who cares what I say? Let's back up and look at it. So, Genesis 1:31, and God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good, and the evening and the morning were the 6th day. On to chapter 2. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the 7th day God ended his work which he had made, and rested on the 7th day from all his work which he had made. And God blessed the 7th day and sanctified it, because that in it he rested from all his work which God created and made. So the question comes into play here. Apparently at the time of Exodus, when they're receiving the Ten Commandments, okay, Moses comes down Mount Sinai, he says, all right, here's these. Everyone's like, well, that doesn't make any sense, because God created everything in millions and billions of years. How can we possibly follow after his pattern? No, see, at this time, people still took Genesis seriously. They said, oh, okay, God made everything in 6 days and rested on one, therefore we should do all our work in 6 days and rest on one. If the pattern is unable to be reproduced, it's a foolish commandment. Do you know what I mean? Like, if God worked for 6,000 years and then took 1,000 years off, or if he worked for, 6 million years and then took 1,000,000 years off, and we're supposed to do the same, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. So the only way that this commandment, which, like I said, in the modern church, this is the one that, it's there. It exists. It's still in our Bibles. People fight for having it up in public, but it's the one that they just kind of just don't even look at or turn into something else. But they're certainly not appealing to this. They're certainly not appealing to the fact that in 6 days, the Lord made the heaven and the earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested on the seventh day. Therefore, wherefore, the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. He says, you should do like I did. What I did was a pattern for you. Did God need to take 6 whole days to make everything? No, he could have done it in 6 whole seconds or a split second like that. However, he chose to lay forth a pattern for us. In laying forth that pattern, he also chose to take a day off, a day of rest. He created the Sabbath. Then he says, just like I did, so shall you do. And this was a command. So anyone who wasn't able to follow this command, as God said, it's not because God is making a foolish command that cannot be followed. Any of God's commands can be followed. You can choose not to lie, correct? But you didn't always choose not to lie. You can choose not to take the Lord's name in vain. But that doesn't mean you can't take the name of the Lord in vain. And when you sin, when you fail, it's your fault. Likewise here, when people didn't or don't keep the Sabbath, it's because it was their choice. It's not that it was too hard, that somehow, working for 6 days, what does a day even mean? Is that like 1,000,000 years? Is that 1,000,000,000 years? Wait, how long am I supposed to work? What time do I get done? Come on, people. This is the foolishness of even trying to compromise what God clearly teaches, and he's never changed, with man's foolish ideas. Okay, and guess what? We'll get into why this is incredibly dangerous. In fact, I'm going to get into that next time. So, guys, here, based on the 10 Commandments, God made everything in 6 days out of 1 week, and we were given a commandment to follow suit. Work 6 days, rest 1. There's nothing different there. Hopefully that makes sense to some of you. If not, feel free to read it. Ask, pray, think about it. It's just some spiritual food for thought. Be blessed. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.